Hello, ladies, and today we're going to have an interesting topic about the psychology of money. And funny that this question would come up in a relationship group or in a trauma group, which, of course, I guess money and relationships do go together. It does have to do with trauma as well, but that's not something we're going to dig in deeply today or at all. That is something that we're going to cover in those series more in depth. Just keep in mind, those of you who are in my trauma group, that money does have its place in there, and that's why the question came up. But the question is related to the book by Morgan Housel, which is entitled Psychology of Money. And the question that I was asked is basically give it a review, my thoughts, what do I think, does it work? So overall, the summary of the book would boil down to that the theories of the economists that we see and the spreadsheets and all those calculations are only so good, and as our practical experience often shows, especially those of you who are aspiring entrepreneurs, that they don't always work, or most of the time they don't work, surprisingly enough. Stop and think about this, is that when you get, a really good calculated business plan and you think you're going to apply it to make money or get ahead, the experiences of most of us is that it doesn't work. And the question remains as to why. So Morgan Housel, in her Psychology of Money book, answers that question. And I should say the question gets answered pretty well, and the advice is very good. I do encourage you guys to read the book. I'm going to leave you the link below. But I'm not Morgan Housel, I'm Helena Green, so I'm not going to tell you the same things that are in the book. For that, go get the book and read it. So there's no point in me taking it and retelling it to you. Obviously, it would just be doubling the effort. So I can just tell you, hey, it is a good book. However, when I come in, and why I'm doing this video, I got this feeling, which, of course, it's me, that the advice is excellent, but then it kind of leaves you with a question of, okay, that's great. Now, what do I do specifically? So kind of leaves you with good advice, but not so much as the answer to question of now what. So for those of you who are not going to read the book, despite of everything that I say, basically the idea of what the author says there is that when it comes to money and psychology of money, it's not enough to just calculate your numbers and figure it all out intellectually, but we can see that your decision making skills and even such things as pride, greed, and envy, and other character traits, I should say. Let's just call them character traits, not flaws, for the purpose of this discussion. Other character traits do come into play here, which once you step back and think, is common sense. So you can't just, aspire to make money and set out on that journey and be an absolute jerk or an asshole, pardon my expression, and expect to have success in the end. There are people who get there, but we all know, again, the practical side of it is all the get rich quick schemes all scams, and all people of questionable character may make a lot of money initially, but it's pretty short-lived, and they usually end up dying in poverty, so it does not last. So, what I'm going to talk about today is what are the dynamics that define this. And the reason I'm saying that is because despite the practical implications that we do observe is, for instance, thieves, drug dealers. Yeah, there are some rich ones, but if you look through their life, they usually end up either in jail or in a pop tent under a blue tarp, being homeless. So a thief never gets rich no matter how much he steals. It's kind of, an old adage. So despite the fact that we're seeing those examples, the way our mind works is that every time somebody gives us a good calculation, we throw it all away and say, oh, that's all not true. It's all in the money, it's all in the economics. So that's the trick that our mind plays. And so Morgan Housel, by the way, does an excellent job of getting us to change that mindset, which I think it's an excellent first step, but then what do you do with this? So let's talk about this a little bit. Not that I'm going to cover all the bases and answer all the questions. You guys don't want to sit here for 3 hours, I'm sure, and even then probably won't cover it all. So let's just talk about what we can, and then we'll see what we can do for follow-up depending on your comments and input. To get started, who can tell me what is money?
What is money? I'm I'm sorry, Helena. I'm puzzled now.
So it probably sounds like kind of a stupid question. What is money? Well, money is money, right? So that's kind of a no-brainer question. How do you define it? Cash, credit, so forth. So, the answer, I'd say, the answer that I was looking for is that money is a form of energy, and that's not something that many people think about or realize or know. Is that money is a type of energy, and it needs to be treated as energy. So we usually think of money as means, as finances, to fix a certain problem, or gain something, buy a new car, whatnot. Um, but those are what I call symptoms of or symptomatic manifestations, I should say, of that energy. And there is a lot deeper dynamics to that. Um, so the aspects that are associated with money, which, if you think about those aspects, they would lead you towards the understanding of energy. So if you think of such aspects of your life as security, self-esteem, power, recognition, visibility, dignity, even love, or some people, they have been successful in buying love with money, or at least a form thereof, depending on their need. So if you think that if something feeds those energies, what is recognition? Lifts you up, right? What is your security? What is the ability to do things? What is behind the power to turn on the light bulb? What is behind a force to accomplish something? It's energy. And when it comes to those problems that we have what we define as, problems or goals, money is only part of the solution.
Wow. Really? I've never thought about that before.
Yeah, and that's what I said, that a lot of people don't think of money as energy, but it's important to do so if you want to understand the psychology of money and the dynamics. And I'm going to obviously go over this in a little bit more detail. But first, it's worth understanding what in fact money is. Any suggestions?
It's the means of paying for products and services.
Hmm.
Now, from what I remember from my economics class, it's the intermediate measure between consumers and goods and service providers.
Great. Yeah, this is a good economic definition. So, see, you guys can define money, and this is very helpful. So, let's keep going. What else?
It's a symbol of status.
Hmm. Yes, exactly. So, once you think of those parts, you can see that money involves movement. It's a way of getting from point A to point B. It's a way of exchange, between consumer and the provider of goods or services. It's a way of elevating your own status. It's a way of bringing something into your life. Why am I talking about those things? Because energy and movement are two inseparable things, and you have to think about money as energy. I'm giving you all those things to help you guys strengthen that notion. Is money is a form of energy, and it behaves as energy. So if you think of money as simply, a number on a spreadsheet, and leave this whole idea of the energy psychology out of it, you're only getting just a tiny fraction of how money works. And, just like anything, if you only have a fraction of how it works and leave out the other parts, that's what happens, when you start putting something together, and, logically you just put it together, but you have parts left over because that was counterintuitive. It didn't make sense. But what does that tell you if you put something together and you have parts left over? Probably a recipe for disaster. And I'm taking assembly instructions for a bed or whatever. But think about it this way: it's very important to not leave parts out. So let's kind of deepen this a little bit, and talk about money in terms of an opportunity to get more resources. Prompt me here.
Um, Maybe taking a taxi instead of a bus.
Okay, so
Going on a vacation.
yeah, exactly. There you go. So when you want something, then money is the energy that helps you get it. If you're tired and you need to unplug, get some rest, go relax, and you don't have the money, then your chances to do so are limited. If you need to get from point A to point B fast, if you don't have the money for the taxi, it's probably going to 3 hours before you find the bus or the right route. So money is the energy that connects you to the resources. So hopefully I've convinced you enough on that. So when you think about money, I want to encourage you guys to think about money as energy. And we're going to circle back to this today. But like I said, there's no way in about 40 minutes that I'm trying to keep this meeting under, I'm going to give you all the, you know, the details and the tools and all the step-by-step instructions that you're going to need in order to get into money. It's just not happening. You want to take the unfug program, then in 6 months, then that's a different story. But as far as the video goes, I'm only giving you tips and pointers. And if you're not going to join my program, then you have to build on it yourselves. But the takeaway here is that take the tips and do something. If you can't build on it yourself, then get a coach, me or somebody else. If you don't need a coach, then build on it yourselves, but do something. So let's go to the next subject. Is money is something that only adults have. Kids usually don't have money. Not usually. Well, they don't have money. They don't use money. They don't comprehend money. Like with my kids, if I give one $1, no, let's say I give one $10 and I give another one 5 ones. The one with $10 is going to cry because he got 5 and I only got one. Actually happens. So children are obviously financially dependent on adults. So that's another thing to consider as far as the energy movement. We as adults have the power of the energy. We have children and other people dependent on us when it comes to that energy. However, even though when we are adults, we could still treat money in a childlike way, childish way. And when we do, that puts us in the category of people who don't have money, don't know anything about money, and therefore can't handle money because they're going to cry that he got one or he got 5 and I got one, in the, using it as a hypothetical portrayal of a situation when we don't understand the dynamics on the basic level, then even when it comes to financial decisions, we just can't make the right ones no matter how many sheets we have because or calculation sheets we have because we lack that understanding. So let's kind of consider and brainstorm the question of how can a person experience money but treat it in a childlike way?
Wow, that is actually interesting. Could you please explain this?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Can I have a try at this? I
Yeah,
think
there
I
you
may
go.
know the answer. Okay. For example, they may not to feel or even believe that they have the ability to manage finances because in their mind money is something that someone gives or takes at their own discretion, which means that control is always in the wrong hands.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. So let's think this through. There is actually a lot in that statement. Um, so children don't know much about money because they never have money. Adults have money, right? Someone
Mhm.
else has money. They don't. Therefore, they don't have the responsibility of money because the decision is never up to them. The decision is to the adults that are going to direct them in how that money should be used, applied, and so on and so forth. So if we never outgrow this kind of mindset, then what happens? Then you're an adult with kind of subconscious background mindset that it's always to someone else to make the decision of how money is going to be spent. So even if you have money, then in your mind, you still don't bear on yourself the responsibility of allocating it. your what they call locus of control, which is a psychological term, which is a combination of focus and location, so your focus slash location of control is someone else. It's not on yourself. And so when that happens, those are the people who fall for scams like crazy, because they don't rely on their inner intuition of how the money needs to be spent. They always trust that someone else can make better decisions. So if they feel like, I really shouldn't do this, but some expert says, oh, you should definitely do this, then the decision is easy for them. Expert is right. So that is very, very dangerous, obviously, in terms of scams, because I don't need to explain what's wrong with scams and what's going to happen. But even when scams are not involved, still, when you make your financial decision and you don't have the courage, let's say, or the boldness to make that decision, you kind of leave it for other people to make it for you. So let's take an example. Say you want to buy a new house and you have kids who want a certain house. So should you buy a house that is, let's say, close to your job because, it's an easy commute and it's going to be cheaper on gas. And if it's cheaper on gas, that leaves more money for the house. Or should you buy a house next to an amusement park because that's what the kids want? So a person without the assurance of their own financial decisions is going to leave it in the hands of someone else. Well, gee, if I buy a house close to work and disregard their thoughts, I'm going to feel guilty because my focus of control is on someone else. And even all the logic is there, that fact that you're going to feel guilty is very likely to stop you from that financial decision because you want to do the right thing. And feeling guilty is never part of the right thing. And so you are going to be opting for a decision that is not in your best financial interest for alternative reasons. And I'm using a quick example of, kids and amusement park, but, they're obviously, it's a very simplistic representation. We could be talking what your parents say, what your boss advised, what the marketing experts, real estate experts have said. There is obviously, wide variety, of those kind of influences. What I want you to get out of this is that when your locus of control is somewhere else and you're not making the decisions, things are going to be haywire because nobody is going to make the decision in your best interest, even if they love and care. We're all made to first make decisions for our own benefit. I mean, even if I am a parent and I have a child, and so let's say, we're in the airplane and, oxygen drops off and, then we need to put the oxygen mask. A parent will often put the mask on the child first because they're trying to save them before putting him on themselves. So that's a very strong instinct that, is only apparent to a child. But, if you do that, like I said, that's very rare. Even if you do that, your first instinct is still to grab the oxygen mask, and then you consciously would override it and do that. So, but in situations when it's not, I mean, that important part is not there, who else would ever put a mask on someone else before they put them on themselves? Definitely not happening. So think about the situations in that kind of context. If we take the highest form of self-sacrifice that you can only see in those select situations, even then your natural instinct is towards yourself, which you will override, like I say, in instances like that. But in all other cases, everybody, even if they care for you, as long as that's just a little under, of what a parent would give to a child, you can stay assured that their decision is going to take their interest into consideration first. So let's go to another manifestation of how money can be handled in a child-like way. And that's for those of you guys who are in my Personality X group. And so you're familiar with that type of mentality, that goes with Personality X. And that's, by the way, where childhood trauma comes in, because Personality X, for those of you who are not watching me and never watched me before, never will watch me again, I'll give you a quick hint and a disclosure that Personality X is commonly termed in the world as narcissism. The reason I'm using a different term is because I don't believe that the term is reflective of what's going on. And because I just don't like the term. It's been used in wrong, with wrong meanings way too much. But anyway, and narcissism and Personality X is a result of childhood trauma. That's where I was going with that. So when a person feels that the control is for them is not there, like they're a child, they don't have the experience of the responsibility of controlling money. When they grow up, instead of outgrowing this in a normal way or getting stuck there, like I have just explained, they just skip over the actual experience and go into a stage of what it's called childish omnipotence. So they just say, since I'm adult, I can handle money, totally eliminating all the experience that leads to knowing how to do so. So that's another way. It's like, a child with a toy, just because I bought a toy fire truck, I am now a fireman. And they strongly believe so. So same thing, just because I'm adult, now I know how to handle money, even though I've never learned or walked myself through the steps to cover the gap of knowing nothing to actually learning how that energy works. So let's proceed further. So that brought us back to the fact that money is a form of energy. Again, I want to reiterate that. And it's energy that follows its own laws and its own rules, just like any energy. Electrical energy, there are formulas for it that, electricians use to wire a house. So any energy is going to have natural laws that it will follow. So if you know the simple laws of the energy exchange of the way this world is made, your financial situation will improve day by day.
Oh, I actually remember the energy conservation law in physics. Is that the same?
Well, not really, because physics is physics, and like what happens in the physical part, is not always, or let's say what happens in terms of mechanics. Is one thing. When we get into water, then it's a little bit different. So, but however, the world is made, kind of by the same pattern, from physical to emotional, to whatnot. Um, so it follows its own rules, which the dynamics may be a little bit different. However, the logic is going to be the same. So with the laws of mechanics, for instance, we're thinking of, how to use those laws to solve mechanical problems. How do I get a faster car? How do I get a more powerful crane lift? With laws of, water, we're going to use them to solve hydraulics problems. Can we make a machine more powerful? Can we, you know, manipulate different pressures to make a certain kind of motor. So with the energy of money, the questions that we are going to be answering would be related to the energy of money. For example, how do I attract more money? What practices exist for attracting more money? What needs to be done to solve financial problems once and for all?
Wow. Okay. I really would want to learn this.
Yeah, I hope it will be of help for me as well.
Right.
Yes, and that's definitely a good thing to learn. Again, ladies, 40 minutes is not enough. I mean, if it was enough, we'd all be millionaires, right? If you can master it in, in 30 minutes. If you do want to join the program, then, that is something that we cover. But um, again, my goal here is give you the pointers. And what you do with the pointers, you need to take them to know that that's what lays in the foundation of how money and energy works, and use them and build upon them. Which, sometimes I must say is even better than taking a program, because a person that can think and apply things, tends to get a lot further ahead than a person whose locus of control is someone else. It's not in me, it's in the program, right? So if I only take the program, I'm going to be there. That's not how it works. You need to take on that responsibility. So that's why take the pointers and build on it. So let's go over them briefly. So one of the laws of the energy of money is that universe is abundant. You go like, duh, like we did not know that. But where that comes in is that that is very important mindset that you need to have when handling money. It's very counterintuitive, and that's why I'm bringing this up, um, because a lot of people feel that they have the scarcity mindset. There is never enough money, there is never enough resources, I will never get ahead. So that mindset will keep you from getting somewhere. And something that we discuss in the program in a lot more depth that I don't want to get into here, but I feel like I kind of have to. So the ways of expanding on that is that, say you are in a spot where you've just lost your job, you don't have food, everybody's mad at you, and you have absolutely nothing. If you have a scarcity mindset, that's basically, okay, I'm screwed, I'm defeated, there's no point even looking, in its worst manifestation. If you have the idea that universe is abundant and those things are out there and you need to find them, then you start asking those questions of how you get there. And so, okay, where do I want to be? What can I do to get there? What do I have available? Do I have something online? Do I know somebody? Is there a skill I can develop? If I'm going to develop a skill, how would I, can I afford to take the time to do it? That's a legitimate consideration. So like I say, it's the whole system of how to structure it so that it actually, step by step leads to a goal rather than, being random, which that is the part that I don't really think we have the time for, unfortunately. But so uh, for the purposes of our meeting, just not focusing on the negative part is what is going to move you forward when it comes to that. I want to read you guys a poem, which is a good poem, and it's from I don't the author of the poem. I don't know who it is. Napoleon Hill. You probably know. It's a very famous name in psychology of money. Really, he has books Think and Grow Rich, and all other very good works on the right psychology and the right approach to money. So everything I say here and explain in terms of transitioning you from the psychology of money book to the practical implication is kind of a bridge. And Napoleon Hill has a lot of, practical manifestations of that mindset as well. So I'm going to leave you a couple links, definitely worth reading together, both the psychology of money and Napoleon Hill. And then you listen to this and then you'll have like 3D picture. So the poem goes as such. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would give no more. However, I counted my scanty store. For life is just an employer. He gives you what you ask. And once you see the wages, why you must bear the task. I worked for a minimal hire, only to learn, dismayed, that whatever wage I would have asked of life, life would have willingly gave. So what the heck does this mean? So he settled with life for a penny because that's the person who believes that's all I can get. That's all I'm worthy of. That's all's available in my particular situation. That's all I can have with my background because that's life, right? It's not. Whatever I would have asked of life, life would have willingly gave. So don't be afraid to set big goals. That's what it boils down to. Yes, it's possible. Don't mean your own fears stop you. Yes, it's possible. You can work on it. Don't limit yourself. That's the point of the whole book by Napoleon Hill. That's the point that I want to impress on you, that I want you to build on, is that don't don't let the limitations get in. Another interesting thing about, not so much an interesting thing, but part of the energy of money, is that you receive what you give. That's the law of energy that applies across many different areas of life, and that applies to the energy of money as well. So think about this in this way. Um, so when and we'll get in those examples in just a minute. But if you are a nice person, people tend to be nice back because what you radiate, you attract. So that is the illustration that you can keep in your mind to keep your mind from playing games with you of, like I say, being a bit counterintuitive here, because the more I save, the more I'm gonna have, right? That's the logic that we're trying to override here. Um, Consider, for example, why you constantly attract people who bring problems into your
Uh, That sounds like about my boyfriend.
life.
And about a lot of my friends, I'm afraid.
Right. So if you have problems, you're going to attract problems, so that's another side of this. So if you are a successful person and you step over that threshold, you're going to attract successful people. So with that, it again takes you back to setting your goals right and to overriding the mentality of hoarding money. If you give money, you will receive money. If you give love, you'll receive love. If you uh, care about people, you're gonna attract people who care. If there are problems in your life, that's gonna attract people with problems. They're gonna have a keen spirit. If you're a successful person, you're going to attract successful people. So those are energies. Money is an energy. So if you willingly give and pay money to others, you're going to receive more money. So pay and give money to others just as willingly.
Wow. Simple, but definitely counterintuitive.
Right. That's why I'm stressing it so much. And that's why we call it a mindset change. It is counterintuitive. That's why we need to work on making a mindset change. So another, we're kind of running out of time here a little bit, so I'm trying to go, a little fast. Small steps towards a big goal. That's again something we focus on and a lot more step-by-step detail. I keep referring to the program because I don't want you guys to walk away with the same feeling as like, well, gee, now what? So I just want to let you know it's out there in case, in case you want more. Let me put it this way. So briefly here, if you instead of saying, okay, what do I do now, which becomes kind of a vicious circle, is that you look the other way. Again, counterintuitive, the other way around. Where do I want to be? Let's say I want to make 100,000 a year. Okay, so from that, how do people make 100,000 a year? Well, you can have a good job or you can have good education. It's either one. You got your business going, one of the kind of tangents, or you can get good education and get a good job. So taking those two, how do I get good education? Or how do I build a business? And you're going to find different ways down from there. So instead of saying, okay, where I'm at now, what do I do? You start from the top and you break it down in those small steps to where it gets to the point of where it's manageable. So to get a good education, I got to go to Harvard. I can't, or maybe it's that university, but I can't get to it until I go to this school and to this program. And oh, here I can get a scholarship to here, to here, to here, and get that education. So again, there are other obviously implications of time and other energies, but that's kind of a basic model again, which is the opposite of what most people do, but that's why most people are not successful. Part number next is working through the blocks and the fears that keep you from getting what you want, getting money. So again, I'm going to be very briefly. You girls have been around, so you know the exercises of the associations that we do, to where you basically sit down and you answer a few questions and see what it associates with for you. So for instance, if I say, okay, if you sit down and think money, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And some people will say, oh, I think of nice vacations. I think of being around very successful people who are smart and who are pleasant to have a conversation with and who I can learn something with. So that's a positive association with money. And some other people say, oh, money associates with very greedy factory owners who run you as a slave, and money associates with those scam artists who rip you off of your last penny. Well, if that's how you viewing money and you're trying to get it, you're likely not going to be successful because your own guilt, your own conscience, your own reservations are going to stop you because you don't want to be one of those scam artists. So it's important to work through of where you're at and either eliminate those blocks or come in terms with what is it that you really want. Maybe money is not your goal. Maybe having a loving husband is more of a goal for you and money really doesn't matter. And the only reason you're pursuing money is because what everybody else says, like we say, egregore, right? You know, so that is very important exercise to do. I'm going to leave you the think through exercise link down below as well, if you guys want. Um, and so honest answers and to those prejudices that limit you are going to be very important. And doing those, call them like small meditations, work throughs, when you work through the issues that you have. Um, so there is, you're going to see, what comes out of your subconsciousness, and then work through the wrong answers to direct the cash flow to yourself.
Oh, that's just sweet. I mean, that's going to be my homework tonight.
All right. Yes. So grab the exercise below. But briefly, what's an egregore, Caroline?
It's been a while for me since I attended your lectures, so I'm afraid I forgot.
Um, so briefly, for those of you guys who haven't attended lectures for a while, an egregore, if you look it up on Google, comes up as a part of satanic worship, only for the reason that that's where it's being used. Unfortunately, it has not been looked at by psychologists in mainstream until very recently, but it's coming back. Originally, it's a definition, it's a term in psychology, that's all it is, and it kind of means a collective energy field. So if you start studying the psychology from the standpoint of energy exchange, get used to it. There's nothing satanic about it. I guarantee you it's a physical phenomenon. That's all it is. It's like I say, Satanists actually applied it to their purposes, so we just need to apply it the right way, kind of like nuclear energy, right? It can be a bomb or it can be a power plant, power station, generate electricity. Nothing wrong with the energy itself. So if what I'm trying to say here is that if you subscribe to an egregore of losers, you're going to be a loser. If you're going to subscribe to an egregore of successful people, you're bound to be successful. How do you do that? Is the simplest thing you can do is start reading what they wrote. How did people get from nothing to something? And then you adopt their mindset, you adopt their mentality, and that will actually help you to get somewhere. But we started this conversation by talking about money and movement. Do you remember?
Yes, at the very beginning.
So lack of initiative, pessimistic attitude can destroy your connection with the energy of money.
So, what should we do specifically?
So, exactly. So what do we do specifically here? So mindset change. That's the takeaway of this video. And all this long talk is help you understand where the change is needed. So if I just tell you, oh, you guys got to change your attitude about money, that doesn't tell you anything. The reason I want you to pay attention and listen and maybe come back and re-watch this video is because what I'm telling you is counterintuitive. What's your default thing? To have money, you got to save money. Don't spend it. What am I talking about? That the law of energy of money is that universe is abundant and you need to give in order to receive. But what will happen if you just go ahead and empty all your possessions and go give them to the poor? That's not going to work either. So that's why, like I say, it's a very subtle change, starting with your mindset first. And once that mindset occurs, then the change occurs. By focusing on abundance, you're rebuilding your relationship with that energy.
Now, I have a question with that. Can we manipulate money energy in our favor?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about this for. I will tell you how to attract money and energy in practice.
Okay, okay. That sounds very interesting.
So, what we have gone over so far is eliminate the mental blocks. That is very important because, again, if you subscribe to the egregore of losers, you're bound to be a loser. If you did not do the right mindset change, I've already explained. I'm tempted to repeat it, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna stop myself. But go back and rewatch it because your mind tends to default, oh, it's just all, psychology, whatnot, give me the calculation sheet. So go back and rewatch if that's what you think. I'm also going to leave you another what I call work through, slash meditation. Meditation, again, is the term that's been used incorrectly many times. So I'm kind of use it with caution because a lot of people use meditation to alter their mind, which scares even me, as much as I preach about, terms being stolen, because that's what we don't want to do is turn ourselves into something or somebody else. The meditation, and the original meaning is think, meditate, think. Meditation is a think through. You think through the situation, you get to the root of it, you get to what is, rather than sit there like the Buddha you think you are, which, is also very far from that even, and try to, oh, I'm in a garden, that's all BS. So let's call it a work through. It's called I'm the Money Man. So that's just something that you can read through, kind of like a small exercise to help your mind program itself towards a successful kind of mindset. Cover another parts of money of what we have discussed. Again, money comes to money. So you gotta have money in order to attract money. That's, kind of an interesting, interesting phenomena, I should say, which I can't really explain outside of, that's just how the energy works. But you may notice, like, if you take your wallet, if you have $1 in there, pretty soon it's going to get thickened. If it's completely empty, it's going to stay empty forever. Money comes to money. So don't ever spend all your money. Always leave some what I call for seed. So once you do your, financial planning, always leave some money for seed. It will attract more money. Like I say, don't ask me why or how it works. I guess I don't know 100% either, but that is just the law of that energy. Another practical implication is money loves count. So if you have change in your purse wallet, you don't know how much money there is there. and you just don't know. It's just a stack of bills. Pretty soon it thins down, and then there's $3 in there, and you really can't miscount, and there's three of them. However, if you count that money, okay, I have so much, just go back periodically and recount it. Again, don't ask me how it works and why. That will attract more money into your wallet. Or digital money, if you go back to your bank account and you recount and you say, okay, I've spent this on that, I spent that on this, recount that, that will attract more money into your bank account. I have different systems of how to count money in detail. Again, I don't I'm going to start sounding like I'm just advertising the program here, which I don't want to give you the impression of. It's just like there's more there if you need it. That's my point. So keep a budget for sure. So another questions that we have already covered. So money loves count. Money comes to money. Universe is abundant. Eliminate mental blocks. Subscribe to the egregore of money by associating you with people who are successful, even that be through just the books. So I think we can wrap it up at this. We covered the basic things. Again, I never aspired to tell you everything, even though I tried. So build on what you have. So as far as where you can go from there, and to summarize the discussion, what you guys can focus on for like your main major mindset change is how to spend money to be happy. Because like I already mentioned, once you get down to things, how much money do you need to be happy? Are you chasing someone else's dream by any chance? And that kind of takes us back to this whole conversation that we had both in the relationship and in the childhood trauma group about ego and your true self. What is your true self? Is your ego of somebody who is successful and makes a lot of money just because somebody programmed you to be so? Is that what you really want? So your ultimate question is, how do I spend money to be happy? That's the question that you guys need to be pondering. Money isn't everything. Everything needs money. Money is an energy. You really, you can't eat, you can't live, So that's another thing you keep in mind is everything needs money. It's a useful energy, so keep those in balance. And don't forget that happiness is an emotion. It's a kind of hint in what direction you could go.
Thank you so much. That was really great and actually challenging.
Thank you, ladies, also for participation. I hope that gave you some food for thought. I'm not going to say I hope it answered your questions, although I want to say I hope it answered some of them. But I hope it gave you food for thought, and that was my goal for today. So thank you so much, and I'm going to stop the recording here, and I will see you next time.